passive talent or it's active talent.
That's a soft skill that really gets undersold in the hiring process.
How to manage in the virtual environment.
You get a diverse cultured group of people. It's a win-win for everybody.
More conversion from candidate leads.
What does that look like in this new virtual world?
Welcome, everyone. It is Thursday, noon Eastern time, and you know what that means. It is time for Talent Experience Live, covering everything that you need to know in HR with interviews with leaders in the industry, as well as hot new HR tech. I am your host, Devin Foster. Thank you for joining me today before the holiday weekend. Special shout out to Tom Tate for filling in for me last week. As he mentioned, I was in Arizona, but still couldn't miss an episode, and neither should you. So since you are watching us today live, feel free to like and subscribe. All things Phenom. You don't want to miss an episode. We do this every single week, and it's always insightful with answering all the questions that you really have. But before we jump into that, I always love to hear where everyone is joining us from. So please hop into the comment sections. That's what makes live streams so special, is that you can interact with the speakers in real time, see your name and shining lights on the screen as we flash up some of your questions. But let us know where you're from. And my other question for everyone today is, since this weekend is Memorial Day and we are kicking off the unofficial start to the summer, I want to know, what is everyone's favorite drink over the summer? It doesn't have to be alcoholic. It can be a nice glass of lemonade. I will share with you that mine is alcoholic. I love a glass of an Aperol Spritz, a little bit of Aperol, Prosecco. It's fantastic, thirst quenching, as well as delicious. So definitely let me know what you love. I see the comments are beginning to pouring in. Thank you for the warm welcomes back. I really appreciate it. Tom, Christina, and Raj, this is great. I also see that it looks like Tina is joining us from Austin. Welcome. And Ben from New Jersey, welcome as well. Again, if you aren't able to catch the full episode, I know everyone's weeks are busy with a 4-day work week coming up next week. You can always catch the full episode on YouTube or the Phenom blog. We do a nice recap with clips so that it's nice and easy to consume and digestible. So definitely check that out there. But today, that is enough with the pleasantries, enough to hear what everyone is drinking. I see Eric is joining us from Orlando with Sears Home Services. Thank you for joining. Today, we are talking about career site essentials, and specifically how UScellular connects with top talent. We are all familiar with all of the great experience that are surrounded by us on a daily basis, whether it be Spotify for music, Netflix for movies, Amazon for what you are watching. But when it comes to searching for a job, some organizations are lacking. It feels a little bit antiquated. It feels like we're being reintroduced to the internet. And UScellular has found a way to really circumvent that and make it as enjoyable as they possibly can, taking some of those industry best practices from some of the companies that I mentioned before. And today we are going to dive in some things that include skills-based job recommendations, video job recommendations, employee testimonials, how to effectively personalize your career site and nail your candidate experience. So without any more further hesitation, please join me in welcoming Eric Clemons, Senior Management of Employer Brand Strategies at UScellular. Hey, Eric, how are you?
I'm doing well. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me. I know you let me know before we hopped on the show today was a day off for you, so I appreciate you taking the time. This is really something special, but I'm not going to let you get off easy. No one can avoid the icebreaker question here. I saw a couple people chimed in with a super dry, ice cold cider from Tom. What is your drink of the summertime? What do you have after a long day of work?
Yeah, I tell you what, I think it's situational. Well, if it's I think a long day of work, you can never go wrong with a nice glass of whiskey. But if you're out there, you're in the heat, my wife has got me drinking, they're called canteens, like these little canned vodka beverages, like perfect for like the pool, beaches, golf course if you drink when you play. But yeah, I mean, they're perfect for the summer. I enjoy them, so no complaints.
I'll tell you what, when I play golf, I only drink when I play, and that's so that I can't remember how badly I shot that day. But no, it certainly is situational, and thank you for sharing that with us. Before we jump into some of the nitty-gritty stuff about your revamped career site, can you tell us a little bit about US Cellular for those who may not be familiar and the typical type of roles that your recruiters really hire for?
Yeah, for sure. So we are the fourth largest cellular provider in the country. We are in 400 plus markets across 23 different states. And I think like any organization, right? So we're responsible for attracting all talent. So we're looking at our frontline sales positions, frontline leadership roles, our customer service and call center departments, but then also our corporate positions. So we're based out of Chicago. All of our B2B roles, looking at our engineering and IT roles, right? So we're really, the full spectrum of talent.
That's awesome. I come from a recruiting background where I recruited for sales. I know it is a grind. It's tough to find some of those nitty gritty people, and you really have to find some go-getters, some A+ talent. And it's not as easy as it seems, right? There are so many people on the job market. And I think that's one of the reasons why you decided to revamp your career site, was to attract them, to show you why working at US Cellular was so special. What were some of your top priorities going into that?
Yeah, so give you a little context on how we got there. So our consumer marketing team went through a full rebrand from a visual perspective. And so we had a logo change, color palette change, the iconography all changed. So we had to follow suit to make sure that we're staying with brand guidelines. And it's, it's one of those situations where while you're under the hood, you might as well, address everything while you're down there. And so the first objective was to update the site visually, just to make sure that, we were taking full advantage of the new guidelines, taking advantage, actually just moved over to a new canvas. It was like, we got some new widgets and some more creative flexibility. So let's really push the platform a little bit to see what we could do here. And again, while we're in there, it's what can we do to refresh some of the content, right? Do we need to add a page? Do we need to remove some pages? Do we need to kind of change the sitemap up a little bit? So that was really some of the drivers, and then give us an opportunity to meet with different stakeholders, subject matter experts in the organizations. Like, look, here's what we have. How can we really make this page pop? Right? What stories can we share? What testimonials can we include? What videos can we include? And so yeah, it was a nice, fun exercise to go through. Probably one that we should do every couple of years.
Yeah, leave it to the marketers to go ahead and really change the brand, change a little bit of the color scheme, the typography, and you're like, oh no, everything that we have is out of date. But I agree, it's important to stay on top of those things. And you mentioned Chicago. I know that is something that's super important at US Cellular, but you have jobs everywhere. I mean, you're joining us from Tennessee today as well. Right. So showcasing all of those different aspects, I'm sure, are important. And one thing that I noticed was super impressive on your site was specifically the DE&I page. It looks fantastic. I know that is something that is super important to US Cellular. So what went through that? Because it is something that is on the front of job seekers' minds now. They want to know what a stance an organization has on DE&I, as well as other topics that are important to them. So how did you really decipher what to put on that page?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, I can't take all the credit. We have an absolutely phenomenal D&I team. Troy, who's leading that team, they do an excellent job really helping, US Cellular find its voice around D&I initiatives. Recently named Forbes top employer for diversity. So when you have those things happening in the background, it's pretty easy to tell that story. But again, we've got a great working relationship with that team. And it's really just taking some of their best stories and pushing them out to the site, right? What is it that we want to share? We've got eight associate resource groups, so some will call them employee groups, business resource groups. Just taking some of those activities, sharing some of that content. It's again, if you have a great story to tell, now it's just a matter of how do you want to tell that story and how do you want to share that externally. Right now, if you go out to the site, diversity and inclusion is under our Life at UScellular page, but we through this process we said, hey, we're not getting enough site visits or page visits to our D&I page. Let's move them up to the top of the navigation bar so that they're front and center, more prominent on the page. Because we agree, we think we have great D&I content. We just want to make sure that it's easier to find.
Yeah, and you mentioned, constantly, tweaking with things and keeping it up to date. So I think having your DE&I almost follow a candidate around as they navigate the site has to be important. And you mentioned the Forbes Award. Congratulations. That's awesome, being named one of the best employers. And the one thing that I love about this page is that it's at the top. Right. Oftentimes you'll kind of see awards and things like that buried in the footers and stuff like that. But this is truly right there when it jumps out. And I think it speaks to some of the authenticity that UScellular has with DE&I. There's videos there, which is also, I think, so crucial, right? You can put as many words, my content team is going to hate that I say this, but as many words on paper or whatever it is, but really to have people speak it and live it is something that consumers want to see nowadays. And I think that helps with your authenticity. The other thing that I loved about the new site rollout was you mentioned behavioral interviewing on the what to expect page. And I almost feel like it's giving candidates a peek at, hey, we're not just going to ask you what are your strengths and weaknesses, those typical questions. Where do you want to see yourself in 5 years? You're trying to really get the authentic candidates in by showcasing them what your interview process is like. What is behavioral interviewing, and why was it so important to put that on the page?
Yeah, so for us, we really do like the what to expect page, and as we think about the interview process, we want everyone that applies to be successful. Right. And so this isn't a gotcha moment. We're going to try to surprise you when you get it. Like, we want to set expectations up front. Like, here's what's going to happen. Here's what we're going to ask you. Here's how you need to answer those questions. Here, I think we have some resume tips on there. We have a video stream where we have our talent acquisition managers and some of our talent advisors giving tips on how to answer those questions. So it's giving them an opportunity to put a face to the person on the other side of the email or the other side of the phone call. And again, the goal is to get them as comfortable as possible. So behavioral interviewing is just kind of situational based. The tell me about a time situation. We're looking for that star response. We spell star out on the page, and here's how you define each of those. And so it's we want you to be successful. We want to provide as much information as we can. When you're dealing with, the best way to say is when you're dealing with frontline, sometimes they're not as interview savvy or how to prepare or how to dress for an interview. So we'll just throw some of those tips out there. We're actually looking at it now. So we recently added a chat bot to the page, and we're going to include scheduling so they can go through the full screening process. And if they get scheduled, we're going to redirect them to that page. Like, hey, we look forward to your interview. By the way, check out this page for some tips on how to get prepared. So again, just pushing the content to them, like, hey, we're here to help. We want you to be successful. Here's a few things that may help you out.
There's no need to break out any surprises for candidates in the interview process, right? It's really it's like a first date. You want to showcase your best self as the organization, and they want to showcase their best self. So why, no need for what's your favorite color? If you were an animal, what would you be? Or any of those fun questions that I unfortunately had to ask back in the day.
I tell you, so when I spent some time on the retail side as a multi-store manager, I was visiting one of the stores, and I sat in on one of the interviews. And we have a pretty structured interview process. And he just grabbed this stapler and was like, sell me this stapler. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, what are you doing? Like, we don't even sell staplers. Like, why are you asking them to do this? But so it's take all those surprises out. Keep it straightforward. Again, we want them to be successful.
It reminds me of the scene from Wolf of Wall Street, right? Where he's like, sell me the pen. That's not something that you want in your interview process. No, so that's awesome that you guys are showcasing that, making it as easy as possible. A friendly reminder to anyone joining us on LinkedIn or YouTube, if you have any questions for Eric, feel free to drop them into the comments section. I want to highlight something that Jen says here: letting candidates know what to expect is an easy yet critical part of delivering a great candidate experience, and making things as easy as possible for everyone is key. Another aspect of the site that jumped out at me is I didn't notice any stock photography or any stock videos. Was that something that was really a key part of you guys revamping this? Was we want to show real world examples?
Yeah, so that was kind of a pet peeve of mine. It's like, I want to, now you go out there, you can find, I think, 2 on there, but we're working to get those down. You know, the last year's been a little difficult to get some of that. But yeah, so for us, if you think about the authenticity, it is really about the storytelling, right? And that's what makes, I can't remember who said this, but what makes stories so great, right? Or what makes a story great is that you can project yourself into that story, right? That's what keeps you hooked. That's what makes you want to go back, makes you want to keep reading or keep hearing through that story. That's trying to do the same thing. You can't do that through stock photography. So if I can show an image and set a realistic work preview through a video or testimonials or throwing the Glassdoor widget onto the site, we want to be as authentic as possible. We want to put our storytellers out there. I personally can tell you how great of an organization it is from a branding perspective, or I can let the actual associates tell you. And so any opportunity we have to put associate stories out there, real photography, putting testimonials, we will try to do that every single time.
Absolutely. It's almost like I know for sales when I was recruiting for, we oftentimes did shadowing during the interview process. I don't know if that's something you do at UScellular, but that was kind of your peek behind the curtain to see what a day in the life was like. Obviously, being remote and everything that's happened in this past year, you don't get that opportunity, and it's definitely more challenging. So the ability to have real people talk about what they really do on a regular basis and say how great it is to work at UScellular has to help. The other thing is we talked about personalized experiences from Netflix to Spotify. I'm sure that my Netflix recommendations are different from yours, and they're different from Shane's, who's pulling the levers on the back end. Overall, when you think of a candidate journey, how are you personalizing things for them as they land on your site? Do they have to upload a resume? Are they answering questions? What does it look like today?
Yeah, so today we have the job recommendations. They can upload their resume. Based on their skill sets, they will start to push out jobs based on either location or based on what they have on the resume, or they can fill out a couple of questions. It's a simple questionnaire to get the same result, so that each time they visit the site, they're going to have those recommended jobs popping up versus them having to go through the search. But I will say this as kind of a caveat to your listeners, is in order for that to work, you have to make sure that the back end of the system is set up correctly, meaning that you have your job mapping, set up appropriately, whether you're mapping it by categories or whatnot. Your locations are set up correctly. So you don't want someone to get if I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee, and if I'm looking for a sales job and I get a recommendation for something in Denver, you've already lost me. I'm like, okay, I'm not engaging with this resource, this tool anymore. So we have that in place. Again, I'll go back to to what to expect page. Again, it's not personalized, but again, it's gives them kind of that engagement with our recruiting team. We have the chat bot in place. I think that's another great tool if you set up the conversations correctly. It's pretty close to a real conversation. I think the AI around chat bots is 10 times better than where it was 2-3 years ago. And then I also say, getting individuals into your talent community, and then setting targeted campaigns. For an example, we're attending a SWE event, right? And we got access to the resumes. Let's just go ahead and add them to the CRM. Let's go ahead and send them a message ahead of time. Please come by our booth, and they come by the booth, and then afterwards you're sending a personalized note thanking them for coming by. Again, I think it's stuff that we've done from a tactic standpoint for several years within talent acquisition. Is like, how do you make it a little bit more personalized, a little more real? So it sounds like, okay, they are focused on just me and not just everyone that they're coming in contact with.
Yeah, no, the copy and paste is not an effective way to get this.
Well, if you want to lose somebody really quick, have your name and the copy in different fonts. You're like, okay, this is just a copy paste job. Like, okay, I'm done.
I will tell an embarrassing story, but at one point I did copy paste quite a bit. And I remember I was at the University of North Carolina and I accidentally kept my Duke copy in there. That's a good way to not get somebody hired in North Carolina. I will let you know. That's probably why I'm not a recruiter anymore. But moreover, the one thing that you mentioned a little bit earlier was the Glassdoor recommendation. And I think that's so important because when we look at shopping and the experiences online, when we see reviews, they're on Amazon, right? It's right next to it. This product was great or this product was horrible. I'll never buy it again. And the reason why Amazon keeps that on the site, whether they're positive or negative, is so that people don't leave. They don't go elsewhere to find reviews. And that's the last thing that I think you'd want as a talent acquisition person as well, is somebody say, oh, what's life like at UScellular? I'm going to jump to Glassdoor and take a look now. It just adds a kink in the process that you really don't need. The other question that I had for you was, you mentioned that you can upload a resume. It always makes its rounds constantly. It's beginning to do so again. But those memes about I uploaded my resume and then the application process asked me everything that I just put in my resume. Does it parse? Does it sync with your social logins and everything like that to save candidates time and really make it as easy as possible?
Yeah, so we do have the resume parsing technology. It's not perfect. I will say that. I will tell candidates if they're leveraging the resume parsing to please go through and just proofread to make sure that it's capturing correctly. But it's one of those things, again, we want to make the process as efficient and easy as possible. I think overall resume parsing technology still needs a little bit of massaging, but we have it. I wouldn't, again, this probably needs a little bit of help.
Absolutely. No, I understand. I again, remember from my recruiting days, PDFs would come through and some systems didn't read PDFs as well as other systems and stuff like that. So these issues happen. And then I remember I'm in marketing now, so I feel like I can say this, graphic design individuals and people who are very passionate about the layout where they'd have their name kind of on the left-hand side to try and stand out. It never parsed correctly when I would put it into systems, but we'll get there. It's a process. We're working through it. And speaking of processes and constantly trying to improve things. You mentioned a little bit about how you're managing content now. I imagine through a content management system. How easy is that to really get used to? I know it's not going to be simple. Right off the bat, you're going to have to get the hang of it, just like we all did when we got our driver's license or when we began to learn Microsoft Excel or whatever it may be. But is it beginning to get the hang of where you have an event and you want to spin up a page and you can drop an image in there easily? Is that something that you've got?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think it just comes down to practice. I mean, right now we do have the staging environment, so we can play around in there. It's set up well, so we really can't break anything, or nothing that can't be fixed, I should say. On our previous platform, I won't say who it was, but I was trying to make the updates myself. Their content management tool wasn't as intuitive, and I had ruined one of our pages externally. So I'm calm, like, hey, I need someone to help me. Like, I need you to get this fixed. Yeah. So today, I mean, it's relatively simple. I mean, with the drag and drop on the widgets, I think learning how each widget functions to create a flexibility. I think you do have to have a bit of a kind of a marketing mindset when you start thinking about the images and the sizes and resizing images. So I think some of that still comes into play, but nothing that an agency or marketing can't help you with.
I got you. Now, as you update the site, it's continued to be a work in progress. How much did you look at analytics to see what pages should be top priority? Which pages can maybe wait a little longer? Because redoing an entire career site, that's probably hundreds and hundreds of pages, thousands of pieces of content. Did you leverage what pages were viewed the most, what jobs were viewed the most to kind of make a pecking order, if you will?
Yeah, so we looked at our some of the analytics behind the pages, and one of the most interesting things that we found through this process was that our job description pages were the number one visited page, and drop off was the highest on the job description page. So what that told us was people are coming into job boards, they're looking at the job description, and then most of them are leaving from that job description. So what that told us through this process is like, okay, how do we create a more engaging job description, right? How do we more engaging job profiles without turning them into microsites? And so what we're doing right now, we're testing it on our customer service jobs, is we have a video integration with scrolling video, so people can go and they can hear directly from individuals sitting in those roles. So it's providing that additional information, pushing them to other pages on the site. That was probably the most interesting thing. So I know a lot of focus gets put on the home page and this page, but if you don't pay attention to your job description page, that'll have a tremendous impact on how people view your job opportunities in your organization.
The best way that I always love to describe that is when you drive home, let's say you have a garage or a side door or something like that, which door do you walk through? Do you walk through the garage door after you park your car, or do you walk out to the front and walk through the front door? Because that's the way that candidates are getting to your site, right? They're landing on job boards, they're coming in that. So what is most important? Obviously, you still want to have a pretty front door and having flowers and everything like that out front. I'm not saying forget the homepage, but the job description page is equally as important. Jen chimes in with a question for you. Do you have a background in coding knowledge when it came to content management? Is that something that's required?
Yeah, so right now we are using Phenom, so no coding is required. Our last site coding was required, and I think my coding acumen, I believe it was the two triangles with the BR skips a line, and that's about all I know. Actually, it goes to the next line. Outside of that, there's no coding experience whatsoever.
That is far more than I know, so I am impressed. The only coding that I knew, I'm going to date myself a little bit here, but was from MySpace back in the day, and I used to just copy paste. Probably where I got that bad habit when it came to recruiting down the line. So I blame MySpace for that.
Well, I'm sure there's someone on here that heard me say the two triangles for coding. Yeah. I'm like, those are not triangles.
So moving forward, what are you most excited about for your career site? What's the next big thing to tackle?
Yeah, so probably what I'm most excited about is, so we've been working really close with our leadership development team. We're finding just from external data that's career growth, development, that's a significant attribute that someone looks at when they're making a decision to join an organization. And we don't really talk about it a lot on our site right now. And so you'll see most of our pages, the different functions they have, they get one page, they get half a page. We're working with our leadership development team. We're actually going to give them 4 pages. We're going to talk about our Leadership Excellence Academy. We're going to talk about all the development resources that are available. We have a section for our onboarding process, just kind of talking through all of that information. And career progression will be the 4th one. And so that's what we like. Hey, this is what people want to hear. This is what the stories that we need to be telling. And so pretty excited about the work that we're going to be doing there. Haven't done that before. Again, I don't know why we haven't had a leadership development piece in place, but we put a heavy emphasis on that. And I think I touched on it earlier, was really just kind of pushing the limits on this new canvas, right? What can we do from a creative flexibility perspective? Of course, staying on brand, but what can we do? How do we make this site stand out from the competition, right?
No, that makes sense. And I think career growth is something that everyone's interested in. And oftentimes when HR looks at, getting talent in the door, it's an offensive mentality, right? It's how do we score more points than the other team? But what's equally as important, as I watched the Knicks last night, is defense, right? You have to get stops on the other end. So you have to prevent people from leaving, right? And showcasing that employee journey and the career growth is so important. Question that came in from Bobin here, a little bit off topic, but I was intrigued by it, so I want to get your opinion. Do you prefer resumes with photos or without photos? A little off the wall, but I'm curious for your take.
Yeah, so I have to admit, I've never actually been a recruiter, so I've never screened.
That's fair.
This would be my personal opinion. I think it just takes up space. I think photos take up space. I think the 4-inch long headers with just your name up there take up too much space. Now, if you're needing to fill space, maybe that's a fit. But I would say for a resume, and it's probably the only time I'll say this, where the copy is probably more important than the visual.
Yeah, We're going to clip that, send it to my content team. Copy is the most important thing on resumes. Before we let you go, Eric, any hot roles that you're looking to fill, you want to promote on the show? And I'm going to have our team throw up the URL for their career site where they can find it. But anything you'd like to promote before we hop off?
Yeah, so of course, all positions. But we do have our Chicago office. We got a great headquarters in Chicago. So if anyone is looking to move to the Windy City, it's a great city. I don't live there; it's a little too cold for me. But yeah, absolutely. We've just redid our office last year, 18 months ago. Beautiful office. But we have, like I said, we have jobs across 22, 23 states. So plenty of opportunities out there for you.
Absolutely. Andy Dalton might be looking for a job out there. I don't know, after the Justin Fields draft. So maybe he's somebody that can help out. But no, this has been a blast, Eric. I appreciate it. I'm going to let you go. I know that it is vacation time for you now. You probably got a glass of whiskey at some point with your name on it. So I'll let you enjoy that. And hopefully we get you on the show soon. We can showcase some of those new pages you were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Look forward to it.
Awesome. Enjoy your weekend, man. Have a good one.
All right. You too. Thank you.
Awesome. That was Eric from UScellular talking about the brand new career site. Definitely check it out. We'll throw the URL up, put it in the show notes and everything along those lines. But Phenom did make some news last week. I know Tom talked about it for a moment at the top of the show. However, we do have a new video promoting Phenom Hiring Manager. This one pokes a little bit of fun at the communication issues between talent acquisition and hiring managers. So with that being said, let's air the clip.
Hannah is a busy recruiter. Like 15 open roles to fill busy.
Actually, I think it's 20 now.
But she's finally about to meet with one of her hiring managers to discuss a few top candidates.
They've got filters now. I can be a lion, or bear with me.
Hi, John. How's it going?
Hey, Hannah. Sorry, just wrapping up something with Justin here.
That's okay. I can come back in a few if you need me to.
No. We'll be done in a minute. Just stick around.
One eternity later.
Okay. Sorry about that. We're working on this huge marketing campaign. So what do you want to talk about?
That's okay. I haven't heard back from you on those candidates that I sent you. I just wanted to keep things moving forward.
Right. Those candidates. Well, I started looking at their resumes, but then Justin came along with this marketing thing, and I kind of got sidetracked by that, and then it was snowing yesterday.
Are your recruiters and hiring managers suffering from a bad connection? Get in sync and stay in sync with Phenom's hiring manager. You've never hired like this before.
I can personally vouch that Justin Devitt uses video filters in every single one of his Doom meetings, but definitely show some love to that new video. Our creative team worked very hard on it. It is live on our LinkedIn page. Feel free to share it if you can relate. And once again, before we go, don't forget to subscribe to Phenom, whether it be on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram. We're constantly putting out great content. As an example of that, Tom Tate filled in for me last week and had a conversation with Kayla Drady from Mercy talking about university recruiting and what's necessary to convert critical roles within the talent pool. In this clip, she talks a little bit about how texting has been a game changer for her. So let's hear about how much of a success it was.
The key words with the texting has been amazing, because when you're doing those webinars, like I mentioned, where it's more of a subtle recruitment, like it's not so in their face, it's giving them content that they can relate to, but then of course making your plug in there of why they want to join your organization. I highly recommend setting up those text codes so that it's right there on the screen and they can whip out their cell phone and send in their contact information. And then from there, then of course it creates their profile for them in the CRM, but then it's tied to that event. And then we can tag them. Okay, what school do they go to? What year do they graduate? So there's ways that we can tag them within the CRM so that we can be more strategic and making sure that we're following up with those candidates immediately. So you can send them an email blast. You can already have a template created. So all you have to do is blast them really quick. It takes seconds to do that. And the texting has been so impactful for us. It's, candidates are responding right away. No more having to call them, leaving voicemails and things like that. You can get them in the moment, get them scheduled for an interview, same day, and even an offer out the next day. So that's been a tremendous success for us.
So see, texting is not just for canceling last minute plans on Memorial Day weekend, because you would rather just have an Aperol Spritz at home than go out and be a part of all of the hustle and bustle. That does it for today's episode of Talent Experience Live. Once again, if you missed any bits and pieces of it, it is live on YouTube immediately following the show. And then you can always catch the blog recap that we put out next week. It gives you a nice synopsis, some clips in there to send out to your colleagues and friends, especially if they are looking to revamp their career site. UScellular has done a spectacular job. Definitely check out their diversity and inclusion page, as well as their culture page that we mentioned a little bit earlier. And for that, I wish everyone a happy Memorial Day weekend. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Bobin. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everyone, for chiming into the chat. You are what makes the show so special. Can't wait to talk to you all next week. We have a very special episode. We're talking about a Harvard article, a little bit about work-life balance. So definitely tune in, set the calendar reminder, and we'll see you then. Thanks.